for mentors and like coaches and teachers, etc., what are some tips for forming a good relationship with them?
So if you really want to have a good relationship with like a mentor, teacher, or coach, I would suggest being very open and honest with them about what you want out of the experience of what you're going through. Like, let's say you're in an internship program and you're working on a project with your mentor. You can tell them what you want out of the project and what you want out of the experience, and tell them, oh, I don't have experience in this. Can you teach me how to do this? And then also be open about like parts of your life. So then they know that you trust them, and then they'll trust you. And so I had an experience 1.5 years ago where I was in an internship program at UC Santa Cruz, and I had a mentor who was like a PhD student from Malaysia. And so what I did was I was very inexperienced compared to everyone else at the internship program, and I was very open with my mentor about it. And he helped me succeed, and in return, I helped him with the project that I was assigned to. And so we had like a friendship that had a sense of professionalism to it. And I'm actually still in contact with them to this day. So I would just suggest, if you want to have a good relationship with a mentor, try becoming friends with them and being open and honest and trustworthy with them. And they will be the same way with you and try to help you succeed in whatever you want to do.
Yeah, definitely. So next question is, how do we deal with the coaches or mentors that are kind of difficult to be with or just don't seem to care? And to that, as a gymnast and as a coach now, I've had my fair share of coaches in the past for gymnastics that I have, uh, deeply disdained because of the way they've, or because of the methods they've gone about coaching. And, dealing with them is just a matter of, okay, if it's that bad, you can, I mean, if this is a school sport, you can talk to, plenty of people. There's the administration, there's other coaches that you can talk to about the situation to try and figure it out. If it's not nearly that bad, then it's just a matter of working it out with the coach and even going above and beyond what this coach expects of you. I think a great way to demonstrate how important sport is to you, to the coach, is by doing more than what is expected of you to do. And then for the coaches that like maybe expect more than you can handle, that's where communication comes in. Just telling them, this is pushing me too hard, or I can't do this right now, or this doesn't even feel safe to do. Those are all really important things to bring up when you have a coach that's maybe doing or maybe being a little bit, doing a little bit more harm than good. And then, over your lifetime, everyone experiences a vast number of coaches and mentors and teachers. At the end of the day, you're going to have good ones and you're going to have bad ones. As a coach now myself, the greatest thing that I've learned is how I don't want to be a coach. How, like, the things I don't want to do as a coach because they're not what I liked when I was a gymnast. So I take what I learned from them and say, no, we're going to try this thing instead. We're going to do this thing instead. And then, of course, likewise, when you have good relationships with coaches, or you have good coaches, you take what you learn from them and grow from it.
Yeah, I have a piece of advice and kind of a funny story on how not to deal with teachers that you don't agree with. So I had a science teacher in, I think he was my 6th and 7th grade science teacher. This was in a different state, so don't worry, I'm not calling out any Fisher science teachers or anything. His name was Mr. Olson. Mr. Olson wore Hawaiian shirts and flip-flops to school every day without fail. And his warm-up sheets were always revolving around The Simpsons somehow. And I remember literally nothing that I learned in that class. But the thing with Mr. Olson was that you either loved him because he never made you do anything and you didn't learn anything in his class, or you were like me and you genuinely loved science and thought he was the worst because he never taught you anything. So my very close friend, who I'm still in contact with to this day, absolutely hated him. She thought he was the worst teacher at the school, yada yada, whatever. And so her approach was to just completely lack respect for him and not treat him well. Like she wasn't mean, but she wouldn't really listen. Um, and so one day we were sitting at our, little middle school desk clumps, and she decides to start talking to an imaginary friend that was not a normal thing for her to do. She was just trying to annoy him. And she was like whispering to an empty desk and like just being a pill all class. And so he was like, okay, go sit over there at that desk by yourself. And she was like, no, I can't sit there because I need a spot for my imaginary friend. And just went on this whole crazy tirade trying to disrupt class. And then he ended up calling her parents, and it was a whole big thing. So the moral of this story, and my 6th and 7th grade science teacher, is that if you have to deal with a coach or a teacher that you don't respect, that's fine. You don't have to respect adults automatically because they're adults. But definitely you have to find some sort of middle ground, because if you just make life terrible for both of you, neither of you are going to get anywhere. And if you're already not learning anything, then you definitely won't learn anything. And if that teacher or mentor is being difficult, there's a good chance that they're just going to become more difficult if you make things harder on yourself than they already are.
Yeah, definitely. So last question for mentors. So we've talked about how to form a good relationship with a mentor. We've talked about how to deal with challenging mentors or coaches. But what about the mentors that, you discover they're good, but you discover that there's something about them that, just doesn't quite jive with you, something that just feels that you discover that it kind of just makes them feel off or changes your viewpoint on them. How do you deal with that kind of stuff? I think another general thing we have with mentors is just kind of realizing that the people we look up to aren't as perfect as we think they are, or as we think they should have always been, right? And to that, I kind of just want to say, yes, we look up to our heroes, but at the same time, we tend to forget that they're still human, right? We tend to forget that they're still people that make mistakes, and they, just like you have made mistakes, they have made mistakes, right? So yeah, I mean, when it comes to the people we look up to, whether that's our parents or mentors or just idols and celebrities and stuff, just kind of remember they're not perfect. No matter how perfect we think they might be now because of something they've done, they've also made plenty of mistakes, and they've been just as human this entire time as we are now.